Good evening, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Mario King, and I'm the current keeper of records for the Brooklyn, Long Island Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. As part of our community service efforts, the Brooklyn, Long Island Alumni Chapter regularly hosts events to educate our constituents on issues that affect us all. The pandemic has forced a lot of our efforts to virtual spaces, but the need to continue our education around the community health is now more important than ever. Like with Black History Month, for Women's History Month, we wanted to continue including weekly virtual programming that allows us the opportunity to hear from experts from various professions from the comfort and safety of our homes. This month, we will be celebrating all of the sororities in the D9 organization with a theme of Real Talk, the women of the movement, lessons, legacy, and leadership. In the past 2 weeks, we have heard from the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha and Delta Sigma Theta. We continue this month events with the lovely women of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And wrapping out this month, we will be celebrating the centennial year with a stellar panel of leaders from Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, and that will be on March 31st between 7 and 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We encourage you to tune in for each session as we share this information with your networks. And now over to the moderator for this evening, my brother Kevin Boston Hill. Kevin.
Thank you, Mario, for that introduction. And thank you, ladies, for joining us here this evening. And thank you all for those of you who are streaming in from YouTube or from Facebook. We are glad that you were able to join us for this third installment of our webcast series for Women's History Month, as we do have a conversation with the lovely ladies, those sophisticated ladies of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. We're going to go through introductions of all these dynamic women in a moment and no particular order, but we also want to encourage all of you who are watching this while it's being streamed to also chime in with your own questions. So please send in your questions in the comment area or in the chat feature, and so that we can ask these lovely ladies the questions that you have on your mind as well as this conversation goes. So we're going to go ahead and get right into things. A graduate of Virginia State University, an initiate of the Phi chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Zakia Ali is a career educator and founder and CEO of Zakia Ali Educational Consulting, LLC, and the nonprofit organization Rebuilding Timbuktu Incorporated, an intergenerational virtual read aloud reading group that promotes the reading and use of Black scholarship as an authority in economic, political, social, cultural, and racial understanding and advancement. Soror Ali is also committed to pedagogical transformation through changing teacher practices and greater learner outcomes through professional development and training. And she is currently in the middle of her doctoral studies program at Howard University. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, the Honorable Keisha Aline became acutely aware of the inequitable treatment of people of color as it related to higher education, work, and compensation while in college, which drove her desire to become an attorney. While at the Texas Southern University's Thurgood Marshall School of Law, she developed her passion for social justice and youth empowerment, a passion that carried over to her position as a social action director of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority for the state of New York. Soror Aline has done extensive work assisting minority and women-owned businesses navigate the legal aspects of entrepreneurship and co-founded Collegiate Minds Incorporated, a nonprofit organization focused on highlighting STEM careers and assisting middle-income families with financing higher education. Serving as the 15th New York State Director of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Amber Coiner was initiated into the Delta Mu Zeta chapter and is a full life member. Sora Coiner is a licensed certified public accountant, and through progressive responsibilities and exposure, her career led her to be the only Black female partner at an international accounting firm. Let me say that one more time. The only Black female partner at an international accounting firm. Her experiences also led her to her positions within the sorority as state treasurer and financial officer of the Kappa Epsilon Zeta Scholarship Fund. Through her leadership, New York Zetas raised over $20,000 for domestic violence survivors, donated nearly $9,000 for water wells in Ghana, Africa, and created a $25,000 scholarship in honor of Zeta founder Fannie Petty Watts. Currently living in Brooklyn, Virna Springer was initiated into the Theta Beta chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority at Tuskegee University and has been an advocate for youth ever since. Aside from her position as a child protective specialist for the Administration for Children's Services, Sora Springer currently serves as the Pearlette Club chair of the Sigma Kappa Zeta chapter and is the immediate past Atlantic Regional and New York State Youth Coordinator. She is also the National Youth Coordinator. Through these positions, it is clear that her passion for youth shines right on through. And rounding out this august body of women, initiated in spring 1996 into the Eta Delta chapter at Northern Illinois University, and later a charter member of her current graduate chapter, Rho Upsilon Zeta, Sora Julia Willis is a higher educational special program and placement professional who partners high school youth, college students, and dislocated workers with opportunities to attain their personal and professional goals. Sora Willis is currently a director of student support initiatives at Triton College, located in the Chicagoland area, where she runs supportive programming to community college students. In her free time, like any of us have any real free time, she is also a co-coordinator for the Chicago West Suburbs Nesby Junior chapter and has engaged and impacted thousands of students through STEAM programming, college entrance, placement, and multicultural affairs. Ladies, once again, welcome to our programming this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into the questions. Now, when you hear the question, these initial wave of questions, feel free for any of you to chime in and kind of respond and feed off of each other, because these are very generalized questions. So I'll begin. You each we've just heard about your distinguished careers. So what role, if any, did Zeta Phi Beta play in helping to get you to where you are now? Do you think you would actually be in this same space if not for your membership in your organization?
I would take that question first. Zeta Phi Beta played a major role in me being able to, in the position that I'm in right now, stemming from undergrad. So in undergrad, we did a lot of community service, tons of community service, but there was one community service that stood out among the rest. And this community service was actually designed and based and actually brought to us from one of our big sisters, Dr. Sawan Crenshaw. Dr. Crenshaw was working at a juvenile facility, and at the juvenile facility, it was actually for young criminals. And she came to us with a proposal and she said, it would be great if my students can actually see positive, right? What does that look like? What does that look like for young people that looks like them, who have actually went on to college, who have furthered themselves, whatever struggles you may have had, but where you are at this moment. And what we were able to do was we try to decide what would you do, right? Because these young people have lived a different kind of lifestyle. They have lived a different kind of zone of what exactly was happening with them. And we actually took it back to childhood. And we went out there, and you would not believe, we went out there and did field day with them. Every few months, we went out there and did field day with them. And when I tell you that these young people who have committed from robbery to murder was out there playing as children, doing just the simple things that we would do when we were kids, when it was field day, wheelbarrow race, egg on a spoon race, you name it, we did it with them. We even went as far as talking to them about college, talking to them about the importance of that whatever mistakes you may have made, don't make those mistakes be the stopping point in your life. Like, you do have a chance to do better. You have a chance to go forward. We did that program without exaggeration for about 4 years. I graduated, came back to New York, applied for a job with foster care and adoption. And I was like, wow, they're asking all these different questions. What have you done? So I'm talking about this community service. And the woman that was there, I'll never forget, her name was Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Gonzalez said, how old are you? So I told her how old I was. She said, you did that as a young person on a college campus? I said, yeah. I said, that's a part of what we are as one of our tenets of community service. She was so shocked in just the information I was able to provide and tell her all the things that we did with these young people. And she kept saying, you weren't afraid. Like, I'm trying to get a better feel of what it is that you did. And I'm telling her, I was like, no, I said, we were out there. We were out there. We brought materials. We brought information, what to do to further yourself. How do you make, from point A to point B and what that looked like. The reality is that everyone wasn't going to do it, but the ones that were able to do it, did it, and to hear those good news from Dr. Crenshaw of kids that made it out the facility, that went on ahead and finished their education, moved forward with their lives, always, led that pathway. So coming back to my interview, so I'm telling her all these good things and she's just sitting there like, give me that number, right? So I said, do you not believe that someone so young could be doing something like that? And she said, it's not that I don't believe it, is that I'm shocked to know that someone so young and your group of young women actually went out to a boys' facility and made children who were living a different kind of lifestyle back into that moment of being kids. Needless to say, she calls the facility and she speaks to, at that time, Mr. Bestida, who was the director. And he's telling her, like, no, she's not lying. Like, they came out here and they actually did this. They actually made this happen, with our youth, to the point that the youth were asking, when are they coming back again? One of the ladies in blue gonna show back up, right? And, just that moment of being able to be a part of something that was even greater, because we were at that time the only organization that actually went out to this youth facility that actually wanted to do something that was different, that wasn't the norm, the usual things that we would do, as far as like we would do the March of Dimes and breast cancer, raising money for children within the community. We stepped outside of that box and did something that everyone was shocked to see, these young girls walking onto this facility to make it happen. So needless to say, I got that call back and the lady was like, I just want to hire you because I need to hire you. I just need to know, what can you do to make a difference in foster care? And I said, well, let's see how that happens, because, at this present point in time, all I can do is do my best, right? And she said, with the way this man talked about what you all did, the program that you all instilled, what you provided for these young people, and he talked about you so much, she said, I just want to see what you're going to do. I just want to see what your plans are. And ironically, when I came into that particular setting, I ended up doing programs. I ended up doing programs for youth that was actually aging out of care. And so I had the opportunity of working with those young people and what that looked like, of helping them to prepare themselves, those that wanted to go further on into college or go into vocational settings. But it was just an honor to be able to know that my beautiful organization was a helping hand in my steps of the career path that I've chosen, that has still moved me along the way and continue to allow me to grow.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Anyone else want to pick up on that?
Sure, I'll pick up on it. So as you mentioned, with Women's History and Women's Future Month, you've been meeting with all of the sororities of the Divine Nine. And while a lot of the sororities have sisterhood and scholarship and service as part of our founding principles. What's unique about Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated is that we have a founding principle, Finer Womanhood. And Finer Womanhood is all about representing your very best self as an authentic woman. And as you mentioned, I'm in corporate America, where showing up with an executive, authentic presence, having clear communication, they're both really key for raising your profile and for obtaining leadership roles. I want to say that I've had a lot of experience both in and also serving in elected and appointed positions with Zeta Phi Beta, where I have more opportunity to practice those skills. And I really got an opportunity to sharpen those skills to escalate and elevate my career much earlier than I might have otherwise.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to chime in. So Soror Corner has definitely elaborated on our principles, and I'm going to pull another one of them out. One of the ones that when we talk about my career, I can speak specifically to sisterhood. When we sit down and we talk about things as you gain status and elevate in levels in your career, it's important networking becomes key. So one of the things that for me, it started from college. I went to Bryant University in Smithfield, Rhode Island. The graduating class of 500, there were 5 Black students, 5, okay? Me and 5 of my other sisters started our chapter on campus. That's when the sisterhood began. I was an accounting major. That's what got me through college. Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated got me through Bryant University and helped to establish what I would find as a love. I was 16 at the time. It nurtured me. It helped me to grow. And I'll fast forward all the way into law school. Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated got me through Texas Southern University, because when we were in Texas Southern University, the sororities and the fraternities members that were older than you had meetings. They sat down with you, nurtured you, taught you what it is. They gave you their study guides. They were truly, truly dedicated to the betterment of you and the advancement of your career. So they helped you as much as they possibly could. And I'll fast forward to after I graduated. I only got my first job. I got my first job as an attorney as a result of the sisterhood. One of my stands, Beverly Sue Ann Tatham, spring 93, was working at a firm, and she recommended me. And that firm, I stayed there for 15 years until I became a judge. So the sisterhood is what actually made Zeta Phi Beta, made my career for me. And it is not something that I think that if I was not here, it might look different. It very well might look different. So I cannot emphasize how important sisterhood and networking is in order to be able to achieve great heights within your career. So, and I'm sure that's with many organizations, but I can definitely say with Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, it has truly made an impact on my career.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you. Soror Ali?
Yeah, I raised my hand because I wanted to join in, and I just love everything that I've heard so far. So first, I want to say thank you to the men of Kappa Alpha Psi for having this wonderful program, and happy Women's History Month to all of my sorors and everybody that's watching. I do want to say that Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated was instrumental in undergirding and underscoring the principle of scholarship. Because when we think about our founders, we think about women who are social workers and women who are educators. And I'm an educator myself. My first teachers came out of my home, but I'm definitely inspired by women like Nannie Helen Burroughs, Catherine Hawkins Brown, Mary McLeod Bethune, and all of the women who are my founders inside of the sorority. But the other thing about scholarship that I wanted to point out is that I like that my sorority sisters and my founders, they trusted that they knew that they couldn't do this work on their own. And so they came together with the men of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And I think it's always important for us to point that out, that women and men working collectively, we strengthen our communities when we work together.
Excellent. Awesome. Awesome. Soror Willis?
Yeah, I just want to chime. I mean, everybody has said it, and I don't want to be redundant, but however, it's when I think about Z5B and my walk and where I am, it's, I got into this young. Most of us came in through undergrad, and it grows you. It makes you who you are. And not only that, like she said, sisterhood, that's true sisterhood, and having my sorors challenge me to do better, good, bad, and ugly, and making sure that I'm, first, of course, we're all getting our degrees in undergrad, but also moving forward in those steps and career moves that you make. And it's not just the job and what you're going after, but it's those that's close to you to challenge you to say, you can do this, get your butt up, put your mind to it, and you will succeed. That's what I think about when I think of my career and how I started being a first-gen student and then trying to figure out college, falling into the education realm, because I was totally supposed to be working in a hospital, working with psych patients, doing all that other stuff, and fell into education and working with students and being just as hard on them as my sorors used to be hard on me to do better in my path and career. And that's what, every time I think about the job that I do daily, of my sorors pushing me and my mentors and big sisters and little sisters saying, hey, you can do this, and this is how it's going to get done. And that tough love and taking those constructive criticism to do better, because that's what it's about. When you think about joining an organization, it's about, what are you really getting into it for and why? And when I think about it, it's everything that they have said and then some, and really taking it and holding it to my heart to say, I made the right choice when I chose Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, as well as my chapter Eta Delta in DeKalb, Illinois.
It's
Well,
that
wow.
why factor. It's that why
Yes.
factor. So Willis hit it. It's that why factor.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think we kind of forget that why, I wouldn't have it any other way. I always say all the time that I am beyond the word blessed of being able to come in through Theta Beta, and the women that helped cultivate me, the women that led the path of where I am today, of being able to, do what we did for Sigma Kappa Zeta chapter, being able to charter this chapter to see the growth of where the chapter had gone in 20 years. Like, it's that why factor. And I think a lot of times what happens, we forget that. We forget the why, and how it shaped us, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think every soror on here said it, but when Soror Willis said that why, it's that why factor that we somehow miss it and we kind of forget it. And then we got to get that flame back to understand that why did I do it? Why did I take that oath? Why did I choose this particular organization? And why do I continue to do the work that was established by our founders? It's that why.
And then to continue on to this day. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to a lot of undergraduate sorors, and I do, and I've advised my undergraduate chapter in the past, and you see a lot of them not moving forward into graduate chapters. It's about their path. And it's like, that's what keeps me here. Yesterday was my anniversary, 26 years. And I think back into looking at why did I, even charter a graduate chapter. I was young when we chartered this graduate chapter, Rhoda Salon Zeta. I had no clue as to what I was doing. None whatsoever. And to this day, and through the years, it's like, man, okay, this is why. Like you said, this is why, and this is why I continue to do this. And like you say, Z Phi B is in my heart, like they say, to the day I die. And it's truly that, you know what I'm saying? That's their family. It's an extension of you. If you have a spouse, if your children, they're all immersed in it. That is your home, along with your family. So it's like, man, this is why. Sometimes when I talk about it with others, I can't even explain it to some, because if their reason was not for the right reason, they'll never understand the why we're passionate about Z Phi B. They won't understand it. You got your t-shirt wearers. I'm being real right now. You got your t-shirt wearers. You got your people that's just here for service.
That's what it's called, real talk.
It's real talk. But when you encompass everything of why you did it and continue that and bring people in, I don't ever talk about sororities with my students, but when they do see me with my sweater, or if I do have my little thing in my office, Miss Julia, can you tell us about sororities and because I'm at a community college. First off, when you talk about this stuff to them, and you mind you, I'm telling them, hey, there's 9 organizations and all, you're giving them all the background. I'm telling them, you pick what's for you if you decide to go to a 4-year. But if you ever call me and ask me for a recommendation letter, it better be for the right one, okay? But it's about just that continuous fire and everything that we've been doing and putting it out there. Sometimes family doesn't understand if they're not Greek, why you joined your organizations. So trying to explain it to them, it's like, man, they get so mad. My mother used to get so mad at me. Why you always out in the streets with the Zetas? You always out doing. She didn't understand because she wasn't Greek. And now as I've gotten older, it's like, man, the impression that you leave about your sorority and organization, what you're doing, all the offices that you have held, all the positions that you have held, all the conferences that you go to, because they're wondering why you leaving somewhere in September, October, and April, and May, and in the summertime every 2 years to do these conferences. So it's like all of these things, it makes you who you are, and it molds you that everything that you're gaining and the connections that you make. I would have never have met Zakia if we weren't on a Spring 96 connection that started on a Yahoo group years ago. They don't even do Yahoo groups anymore, but that was years ago. So we still have that connection, and just those connections is what makes this being who we are today so important. And so
we discussed the I guess the what. Right, the what is the organization? What has the organization done for you? You all have touched on the why. Now I want to get into the who. I want to get into, because we know that this is Women's History Month, and as Sora Coiner put it, Women's Futures Month as well. I want to find out, who are those unsung women in your lives that have made an impact?
Start with me. So I have recently become a judge. As of November, I am a civil court judge in Brooklyn, New York. And I'm proud, very proud. It was a lot of hard work to be able to put myself into that space. And I will tell you this, my sorors backed me every step of the way. Thank you. Sigma Kappa Zeta was on board, and all the sorors all across the state. I could not have done it without them. But in order to be certain things, you have to be able to see it, okay? Representation is everything. And I can say to you that in my family, my mom's sister is a judge. That wasn't really, as I was growing up, it wasn't that impactful for me, I'll tell you that, because you see it every day. It's like a normal thing. But as I grew and I became a lawyer, and I went to her alma mater, Thurgood Marshall School of Law, and I started working in it. I'm like, wait, I really have a judge in my family. And other people are like, really? Like, no, really, my aunt, my mom's sister, is a judge. Not only is she a judge, she is a judge in Houston, Texas. And not only was she a judge in Houston, Texas, she was the first DA, Black, African-American DA in Houston, Texas. Okay, so when we start talking about impactful people who shape your careers without you even realizing it, your family sometimes is the most impactful. And so for me, one of my unsung heroes is Veronica Morgan Price, who is my aunt, who is she was actually the person who flew from Texas and actually swore me in. Yes, indeed. She actually swore me in on my day of on my first day. And like I said, I don't think that I truly appreciated as I grew up how impactful that was for me. But I know that when I got to the space where it was like, can I do this? I was like, yes, you can, because you see it. You know that it's here. You see it. So you know that you can do it. And so for me, that's one of the many, okay, that I could say. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in?
I have, I want to jump in. I have a lot of unsung heroes that are women. And just women, period. I just love the things that women do, whether you have fame and notoriety or whether you are Miss Molly, the next door neighbor, just trying to make ends meet. I just really appreciate women, and I appreciate the things that we do to make sure that we can make a way out of no way sometimes, all the time. I think about the women inside of my family. My great-great-grandmother, Sarah Ingram, while she wasn't born enslaved, her husband was born enslaved. My great-great-grandfather, Boss Brooks. And then I think about my great-grandmama, Grandma Maggie, and how she was such a strong woman who could turn magic and on a field in Alabama. And I'm proud to say that I'm the owner of that farm that she and my great-grandfather raised today in Coffee County, Alabama. And the things that she just instilled in us as women inside of my grandma, just to be prayerful, to be faithful, and to be just good stewards of other human beings. So I have so many unsung women. I think I named some of them: Nanny Helen Burroughs, Catherine Hawkins Brown of the Palmer School in Sedalia, North Carolina, and also Mary McLeod Bethune, and all educating women, and even not just necessarily women, but young girls, so I have a 5-year-old niece named Layla. She has her own YouTube channel called Layla's Learning Corner, and her mind is just amazing, and she can tell me anything about algebra and about physics, and she's 5 years old. So she's a member of the Mensa Academy. She's a member of another organization for children with high IQs. But the thing about her is that she's relentless in her pursuit of learning and knowledge. And that's what I love and appreciate. So she's an unsung hero. I have a 15-year-old niece. I got a 17-year-old niece. I have a 25-year-old niece. And I just see the ways that they are always striving to be better every day. They inspire me. So it's not necessarily always the women who are the elders. And then there, of course, I can't forget my mom and my aunt, identical twins. They drive us crazy, but they also instilled a lot of things inside of us as these two twin sisters trying to raise 5 daughters on their own after they experienced insurmountable tragedy, but still making sure that we had the best of everything and making sure that we were prayerful like my grandma and we were faithful like my grandma and the women in my Muslim community. So I'm inspired by women.
Great. Thank you. It's clear that you are. Soraya Springer?
I would like to jump in. For me, my unsung hero is my mom. I'm a PK. I'm a preacher's kid. My mother was the founder of our church. And my mom, with several other pastors who are Caribbean and Panamanian, they formed a coalition that helped quite a bit of people from the West Indies, people from Panama, other Spanish countries, to be able to get their residency and to be able to get their citizenship. And to watch how my mom and some of the other ministers worked, to watch how they did the footwork. They found the attorney, they did what needed to be done. To watch her many a night stressing over, this person has a meeting at immigration, this person has to be at immigration, and she's pressing her clothes out and she's getting her stuff, and I'm on the phone with her and she's calling me back and she's coming over, and all kind of things of getting herself prepared to go down with people was amazing for me. To watch this woman that a lot of people don't know, really and truly no one, not even my closest friends, know all the stuff that my mom used to do and the stuff that she did, but she instilled in me the importance of putting things in order. One thing, my mom was literally that pastor that believed that prayer, above all, will work no matter what, right? And she instilled that in us as kids, and she instilled that in our friends. She instilled that in so many people's lives that she touched, from just giving a word from the pulpit, from just being able to get people down to immigrations to get their paperwork done, get their paperwork started, and helping people along the way. And it's so amazing because to this day, when I hear a lot of people still talking about my mom, or I will post something on Facebook and then I see all my former Sunday school friends chiming in, or some of my friends from my childhood chiming in. It's amazing to hear when people say things like, if it wasn't for your mom, this wouldn't have happened. If it wasn't for your mom, this wouldn't have taken place. I'm so grateful that your mom took the time to make this happen, because this is why we're here today. So my unsung hero is my mom, Reverend Teresa Springer, and That's who I'm very proud of.
Thank you. Who's next?
Me, unsung heroes. It's a combination of people. I'll say that, like everybody else. I know people had one here and there, but it's a combination of people. I'm a middle child. So if anybody knows anything about a middle child, you are pushed independently. So that's who I am. I had to figure out a lot of things on my own growing up and moving forward. I had the family support, but it was one of those things where I had my mom, my aunts, my grandmothers. They were very hard on a sister. So it was one of those things I really had to do me independently. But I am appreciative of it because it made me the person that I am today. So I would say that, as well as sorors that I have encountered over the years. I want to say that they sometimes don't realize what they pour into me, younger and older, especially younger, who really have pushed me to be the person that I am today. So I'm going to say it's a combination of a bunch of different women in my life that has really sprinkled their essence on me to move the way I move.
Excellent. Wonderful, wonderful. And Sora Coiner.
Yeah, I'll pull up the rear here. Just like it was mentioned, Sora Willis mentioned that she has a group of soras that and women have poured into her. That's also been my group of unsung heroes. I struggled with self-confidence over the years. And so my group of unsung heroes are a very core and tight group of women that I met through the sisterhood. Chief of Mitch is a soror named Sharia Keith. When I met her, she had a story and a way of conquering anything that came in front of her. She had an indomitable spirit, and being around her and others in my core squad of sisters, they helped me own my own power and conquer the spirit of disbelief to help me find my way through any challenge that I had perceived as insurmountable. So they're my unsung heroes. I always remember it, and I remember to pay it forward and encourage others, especially, young women.
Great. Well, thank you again, all of you, for sharing those memories, those fond memories of the women in your lives who have pushed you forward. And as we see, that it's not just anyone who's older, it could be your contemporaries or people who are younger than you as well. It's intergenerational, as the Sora Ali would put it. So I want to begin the individual questioning phase at this point, but even though these questions may be directed to a specific soror, please, anyone feel free to jump in and kind of add on if you feel the need to. But I want to begin with you, Sora Coiner, and because your financial experience is quite impressive, and having served as the only Black female partner in an international accounting firm, as we mentioned, we speak a lot about creating generational wealth, but most people don't even know how to begin that, how to start creating wealth beyond like hitting the lottery or becoming some major athlete. So how can people get information regarding finances that will take the mystery out of all of it and help people get more on secure financial footing?
Got it. Well, you mentioned hitting the lottery as a way of, getting rich, but hitting the lottery, it's a stroke of luck. It's an act of chance, but creating generational wealth, it's an act of intention. And intentionality is all about creating a plan and then being disciplined enough to follow through. So there are some easy enough actionable steps to help create a more secure financial footing. I'll just name some of them. Create a budget, spend less than what you earn. It sounds easy enough, but in reality, the challenge of determining what's important and what sacrifices you want to make to get to your ultimate goals can be a bit challenging. Follow a systematic and realistic plan to pay down bad debt, such as credit card debt. invest in your future by contributing to your company's 401k, and do it with your very first job and with your very first paycheck. Get your own life insurance, separate from what's provided by your job. You know, it's very unfortunate that sometimes I see GoFundMe's because people don't even have the amount of finances it is just to cover their own final expenses. Save money, create an emergency fund, and then after you've got your emergency fund set aside, start using your money by having it work for you by investing. So it's a step-by-step process, but the intentional goal is to stop the cycle of poverty. And that's absolutely achievable. Something that we learn sometimes as part of becoming our members of our organizations is all about something they call the 12 Ps. And it means that poor planning, it promotes poor performance. So with proper planning, we can avoid the pain that comes with struggling from making ends meet and living check to check. So if you're not quite sure how to get to the how of getting started on this journey, I encourage you to look into the D-Free Global Foundation. It's a partnership that was started right here in the Atlantic region of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Our partnership with D-Free, they're a nonprofit organization, and they're designed with the Black community in mind to deliver access to resources that unlock the opportunities to achieve financial freedom. They have a $1 billion pay down. You can read all about it on their website and take the next actionable step by visiting the billiondollarpaydown.com and join the $1 Billion Challenge. It's a free challenge. It encourages people to take control of their finances and build the foundation to get your financial house in order. So again, to get more resources on how you can take simple actionable steps and follow a plan to get on a more secure financial footing, check out dfreefoundation.org.
Excellent, thank you.
Add to Sorority.
Please do.
So I too am an accountant. I was an accountant. My undergraduate degree was in accounting, and I worked in corporate as a corporate attorney. One of the things that I would like to say that is key to changing this, all of what Sorority said is absolutely positively correct. It is intentional. But the other thing, in order to change a cycle, you have to start with our youth, right? So we have to start to train our youth the value of $1. We have to start to train them. So most of us at this age, if you're in a graduate chapter, you're, childbearing years, our age, or something along those lines, it is important that we stress to our youth the importance of savings and budgeting and teaching them all the tools, even if we don't have them fully together yet. Teaching them the importance of putting those things in place. I always tell the story that when I was younger, I had, you would get a little summer job, and at the time, savings bonds was a thing. And my mother would make me get a savings bond from every paycheck. She would force me. It would be a fight in my house because I want to buy sneakers, whatever. You'd have to go to the bank, get them to mail it to you. But when I bought my first house, I had tons of savings bonds that I could have because I never cashed them in because I was just like, whatever. But it proved to be something useful at that time. And even if it was only $1,000 or $2,000, it was money nonetheless. So it was important. And that shapes my mind now as an adult. I sit on the board of an organization called Seeds of Fortune. And Seeds of Fortune teaches young women and is focused on teaching young women to go to college free of debt. One of the things my organization, Collegiate Minds, was focused on sending our youth, making our middle class be our middle class. When our students are graduating from college, they are riddled with debt, which changes their perspective when they leave out of college. They cannot go into the workforce as a middle class individual, right? So the goal has to be to teach our students, go to school. If you're going to go to college, which we encourage, get their debt free. You want to try, we have to teach them. We have to teach them the mistakes that we made. We don't want our students to be coming out with debt upon debt because it's much harder to do all the things that Sorority says when you are riddled with those student loans. So we really have to focus in, we definitely need to focus on ourselves, but we don't need to lose sight of the fact that our youth are important to this concept of changing our wealth structure. So I just wanted to add to that.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. That's very important information to have. But I'm glad that you did chime in, because I actually want to come back to you for another question, because we actually got a question from one of the many viewers out there who are watching this on Facebook and on YouTube. And we encourage all of you, please, who are watching, to send in your questions as well. But your question, and I'm sure all of the rest of you are going to want to chime in on this one as well, is what is your view currently on the way that the Senate is hounding, and that's my term, hounding the current nominee during this line of questioning? Please feel free to speak your mind. Again, we're trying, it's real talk. So speak your mind on what your feelings are and how the Senate has been really just going after our nominee, and anyone else can chime in as well after you
Okay,
get
so
your
I'm going to say this. As a judge, I have to defer to my sorors and hope that my sorors got my back, okay, on this one. I'm going to have to defer to my sorors just a tad.
I figured as much.
Right. So, you know, I personally am in full support of her. And I think every one of us are. These hearings are definitely interesting. I will just say kudos to Mr. Booker, okay, for his comments. And I'm going to stop there, because, like I said, as a judge, I have to stay neutral on some of these.
I know
things.
you have a particular care that you have to put out there. I totally get
some
that.
of these things, but I'm going to let my sorors take the charge, and I'm sure that you all are going to hold my back on that one.
Well, let me say something, because I think this was a conversation that me and my sorors just had recently when it comes to equity. And looking at, if she was someone that was white and a male, would she have this line of questioning? And it's one of those things, especially for Black women, you have to show proof that you can do the job. If it was a male, they just give it to them. And I think that's where we're at right now with her in these line of questioning. Everyone doesn't believe that she can do it, but let me see the proof. And knowing that she's more than qualified and then some to do this job. So it's, the line of questioning is asinine. It's degrading to her profession, her education, and who she is. She has proven herself. That is why she is where she is. But there's others out there saying, well, we still need to see before we can say yes. So I'm going to stop in right there, because I know my sorors may have something else to say.
You know, Sora Willis, it's funny you would say that, because when you listen to how they are attacking her, and that's the word that I'm going to use, right? Because that's exactly what it is. When you say something as ignorant as, what kind of name is that she has? Can you show us your LSAT scores? How dare you? When the fact that most of you, to be honest with you, you know, she's more qualified than most of the people that are sitting in that audience that's even having the nerve to question her, you know? And once again, Sora Willis hit it on the nail. You know, we as women of color, we always have to be 10 steps ahead. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to sweep it under the rug. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You got it. No, we don't have it. And stop saying, be strong and do what needs to be done. Sometimes women need to be hugged and need to cry for a minute, okay? Because we need to be able to know that someone has our back. We need to be able to know that we're not just out there fighting. That woman is fighting, and she's fighting with so much poise. She's fighting with intelligence. She is sitting there smiling. She's sitting there answering those questions. And I know in the back of her head, she wants to just scream out, you know? But to see her demeanor, to see how she's sitting there, and no matter what they're throwing at her, she's coming back. And that says a lot. That says a lot for this woman. That says a lot when you're hearing the ignorance. But that says a lot when you're hearing, you know, these men who have the nerve to be yelling and acting like a 5-year-old in these proceedings. And, you know, to know that, you know, that Cory Booker is doing what he's doing. His part right there plays such a major role. And a lot of times people don't see the roles that people play. And he is playing such a major role in just the way that he's addressing, how he's handling his mannerisms to her, his mannerisms on the whole. but it's not just Cory Booker. There's so many other people that are out there that are backing this amazing woman. And at the end of the day, no matter what happens, she is making history, because if nothing else, she is sure making people see who these people really are. So if you are not seeing anything, and you may not, it's always a woman thing, always a Black thing, please recognize it is, because this right here is making history. And no matter what may happen, this woman is standing on the shoulders of greatness. And what happens with this, what happens here, always will set the standards and set the goal of what's going to come next.
Zora Ali, I see your hand up.
I was just gonna say that I'm not emotionally vested in their conversation, in terms of like how indignant they are, how disrespectful they are. It's par for the course. I expect it, so it doesn't shock me. I'm not surprised. I expected it. And they continue to underscore exactly who they are. And they continue to help me to understand that cognitive dissonance is a real thing, and that insanity is a real thing. When you hear like some of the conversations, some of the questions that they ask. And so I'm not distracted by it. I hear what Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is saying and how she's answering the questions. But sometimes I almost wish that we didn't applaud her poise. And sometimes I wish that we could say things like, sometimes I wish she would roll her neck. And sometimes I wish she would break demeanor. And I think sometimes I wish we would give up the respectability politics so that we can be well received, and so that the things that come out of our mouths can be digestible. Because as we know, it don't matter if you have on your Sunday's best or if you have on a hoodie, you still get the same treatment. So what happens every time these types of judicial hearings happen, people get to see the real America. So that when you think that you have arrived because you are in America, there's a way that the American system humbles people and lets you know that you are not special, you are not valued. And I think that we need to take the rose-colored glasses off. And so these situations like this, these hearings, these judicial hearings, they always show you exactly what you are dealing with. And it tells me, or for me, I feel like that it should resonate to us that we don't have any friends. To quote Dr. John Henrik Clarke, we don't have no friends. So it doesn't matter what these congressional members do and what they say, we don't have friends inside of them. We don't have allies inside of them. So it comes down to being self-sufficient. It comes down to picking up a UNIA mantle like the Marcus Garvey way. It comes down to thinking about how do you strategize and organize like a Malcolm X. It comes down to thinking about how you can build your own like a Mary McLeod Bethune way, so that you are not dependent on hearing what any of these people have to say and think about you, because we know that their thoughts don't matter,
Yeah. Zora Coiner, go ahead.
There's a meme that I saw floating around Facebook, and it said, for overqualified women who have to remain calm, friendly, knowledgeable, and professional in front of the underqualified men, Lord in our mercy, hear your prayer. And it makes me think that, yes, I would love it if she could, for a minute, just, who are you talking about? Who are you talking to like that? But she knows that in this space of being the first, that it's a challenge, and there's a level that she needs to be at so she can break through that barrier. And if nothing else, her position and where she's at right now, it speaks volumes to all those who say, oh, well, we couldn't find a woman. We couldn't find a Black woman who was qualified, who had all this stuff. For all those things in every area, to take it from what the Kappa say, every field of human endeavor, it's possible if you're looking. If you just open your eyes and you look in the right place, you can find the diversity and you can get the equity and the inclusion in all areas, because the talented women, the talented Black women, we are there and we are ready.
Thank you for that. And as a follow-up, I just want to throw this out there, and this is really this kind of geared towards the educators among us, but any of you can chime in on this really quickly as well. But just as a quick follow-up, so how do we now use this experience and use this charade or this what we're seeing now as a teachable moment for our youth? How do we show them that what to look for, and therefore, and how to combat what we see as this verbal televised lynching that's taking place?
I think we stop telling our young people that you have to be 10 times as good or work 3 times harder, because it's a myth. Just be excellent. Every day when you wake up, you do your best, you know? And I think that when we sit up here and try to compare, like, we know that most of these people that are in the positions that they're in from a different demographic are not 10 times as good. They did not work 1 time harder, 1 time harder. So I think we should stop telling that to our young people as if to say that if you do all of these things, then it's going to change mindset and it's going to change mentality, because it isn't. We all know that you cannot legislate people's hearts. So white supremacy, racism is deeply ingrained inside of people and the way that they move. And that's why the focus has to be shifted into how can we learn to develop and to build on ourselves, on our own, and pour into our communities to the best of our ability, where we are not constantly centering people who do not value us. We center them way too much. They get too much talk time. They get too much brain power. We give them too much space, and they don't deserve it.
I would say know your purpose and your worth, and don't allow anyone to take your path or what you're trying to step into away from you. Don't let them take your power, basically, of who you are and what you're trying to do in life, because we've seen it. It's don't let anyone speak ill will, because you know exactly what you're trying to do and your end goal. Bottom line.
I want to chime in on a more elementary side of this, is that we got to talk to the kids about what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is, you want to have a teachable moment, well, you have to teach, right? So it starts with, let's even talk about what is actually going on. Do you know that there are hearings going on right now? I can't tell you how many career days that I do that people do not know the students do not know who Sonia Sotomayor is. How? You're in New York City. I go to the Bronx, and the Bronx students don't even know who Sonia Sotomayor is. Okay. So when we want to start talking about teaching, right? We have to realize that there are certain things that our schools are not teaching, and we have to start teaching at home. We have to have these conversations. My parents used to sit me in front of the TV and say, we're going to watch the news together and we're going to talk about this. Or they made me read Black Boy. They made me read Native Son. They made me read these things. My parents grew up in the South, in segregation times in Charleston, South Carolina. And they made me, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and Brownsville, but I needed to know what was going on during the times of when they grew up in the 40s. Okay, so it's a teachable moment when we as families decide that we want to teach our children. And a lot of times we have lost that concept that, you know what, it's important to sit your children down beside you and watch Barack Obama being sworn in. It is important for you to watch Kamala being sworn in. It is important for you to be talking to your students about, or your family members, or call a young person and say, hey, do you know what's going on? Do you know who Miss Jackson is? Do you have any clue who that is, right? On Saturday, our chapter has a event called All Dolled Up, where we're celebrating African-American women, and we're giving away dolls. And all the dolls that we have are dolls that, through Barbie, the You Can Be Anything series, which is the boxer, this, that, and the next, or the Ida B. Wells doll, the Maya Angelou doll, all of these dolls, so that they can start to see. And we plan to have a conversation around who Miss Jackson is. We're going to have that conversation on Saturday about who this woman is, because it starts with really teaching if we want to have teachable moments. It's not just to talk about a teachable moment and how it's not there, but we have to do the teaching. We have to be vested in our children knowing what's going on. And a lot of times that's the piece that we're looking for other people to do it. We're saying the schools don't do it and this don't have it. That's our job as parents, as the village, right? Even if I'm not a parent, as the village, is to each one teach one. Find someone, sit down and ask them. For our Arcanettes, our teenage group, do you guys know what's going on? Because if you don't ask them, they only know about TikTok and what else is going on over. If If Katanji's not dancing on TikTok, they don't know what's going on, okay? So it's important for us to really focus in on the need to educate our own and to be vested in educating our own. So that's my.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to get back into the individual questions at this point, and I'm going to start off with you, Sarah Springer, because the work that you have done and that you continue to do with our youth is quite commendable. We just finished off this part of the conversation talking about how to address our youth and what we need to talk about with them. So your profession also is a great fit for the work that you do. And you talked about how you first got involved with that with your interviewing and everything. So have there been times where your professional life with the Administration for Children's Services and the work you do with the sorority youth services have mixed? And how do you keep those worlds separate if they have?
The reality is very hard. And yes, they have mixed. It's difficult. I'll say that. It's difficult when you go to a meeting and a young lady walks up to you and she's like, "Hi, Miss Springer." And you are in total shock, but you got to have that game face on. And you're saying to yourself, this young lady is in one of my youth auxiliaries, right? And how do I address that? How do I remove myself from that? Because of the position that I have. At that time, I was the New York State coordinator and Atlantic Regional coordinator. And I was just floored when she walked up to me. And it's very hard for what I do for a living. To be able to keep that separated, to be able to not bump into children. I've had youth to actually transfer out of the borough to another borough. And we are at a state conference and two kids walk right up to me. "Hey, Miss Springer, how you doing?" "I'm doing well. I'm actually passing my classes." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's definitely difficult. What I do for a living, and what I used to do, let me say that even better, because I believe that that the universe definitely takes in what you put out. And I've always been blessed where I've been able to work with the youth the way I did and do my very best. Was everything an awesome story? Was everything a great ending? It wasn't always, but it was just what I was able to put forth to make happen. And being able to keep that separate has been difficult because of who I am, my position. Going to different boroughs, never knowing if I'll bump into children, and have bumped into kids, have bumped into family members while I'm with members of my sorority, while I'm with our youth club. One incident, I remember we were walking down the mall, me and the girls, and we were just picking up an outfit. We were getting their outfit for, I forgot what presentation it was that they were going to do. They was performing for the Senior Citizen Center. So we went to go pick up their outfits. So we're walking, we're talking, I'm talking to the parents on the phone, and I hear someone scream out my name, and they're screaming, right? And the kids are like, "Miss Verna, someone's calling you." And I'm saying to myself, that can't be possible. Someone can't be calling me like that. Sure enough, it was a parent, and she's yelling and waving in the mall. And she's telling all her friends, "That's my ACS worker. She's the reason why I kept my kids." And I'm just like, so at that moment, I was frozen. And the kids was like, "What did she say, Miss Verna?" I'm just like, huh? Let's keep it moving. But it's really difficult. It's really difficult for what I do. It's never a good space for me when I'm walking with the youth or when I'm walking with my sorors or even walk on my own family and I'm having those crossing those paths, or walking into an event or a meeting and I'm seeing the kids. It's like, oh my gosh. In spite of what it is, I can never say who I am. And when people be like, "Oh my God, how do you know so-and-so?" And I'm just saying, life, life is what make it happen. But to just kind of make that into a regular thing, it is difficult. I'll be really honest with you. Working for Children's Services for 18 years. Prior to that, doing foster care and adoption. Prior to that, doing pediatric HIV and AIDS. So you're going to see those type of, mixing by force, and you just got to keep that game face and just keep it going in order for no one to really know who you are and what you meant to to those people that are calling you out.
So in essence, you are actually somebody else's unsung hero because of all the work that you do. Because I know, being an educator myself, one of the things that you hear about the negative sides of ACS. You hear about how they come in to take the children away as opposed to helping people keep families together. So it's always about the sadness that comes around with dealing with families. And now you have to weigh that with the positive aspects of working with your youth auxiliary. And sometimes those worlds collide, sometimes they intermingle, but those are things that we all of us in organizations kind of have to do on a daily basis. So thank you for sharing those experiences with us, because I'm sure our listeners are in a very similar situation and have to figure out, okay, how do I balance all of this and keep things going? But I do want to continue on, and I want to move on a little bit to Ms. Sora Willis. I want to bring you in at this point, because you've worked in higher education for quite some time now at different colleges and community colleges, and work closely with our youth about to embark on adulthood. So what should students know now about college, those who aren't in college yet? What should they know about college? And what should they do while in college to help prepare for the next level?
You know, times have changed when it comes to education. We all know, especially for higher ed, especially through the pandemic. And I think what they should know now is knowing what they want to do, because college is not for everybody. However, coming to a college that may have a trade or something like that for them, knowing that that resource is there. Also, knowing they don't have to do everything is right there in front of them. Before, we used to have to find the money. We have to go out and get it to make sure that we can pay for school. Now it's so accessible. A lot of students don't take the time to do it. You'd be surprised how many scholarships, from the biggest ones to the smallest ones, students do not do. And then it comes down to them applying for those scholarships. It's again, education systems are different in different states. The writing is not the same. Students don't want to take the time, because if it's not electronically where I can push a button to say, yes, I need the money. No, I don't need the money. They're not filling out for it. And knowing that you can do it, whether it's, I don't ever push a student if they are, especially at a community college. What is it that you're trying to do? Well, I want to get a degree, or I just want to make some money. Before, I used to be that person. No, you have to get your associates, and then you have to get your 4-year. That's not even reasonable, because I'm not looking at the student and where they are. And knowing that as long as I've been in this, showing them, hey, come to get the resources and things that you need in order to get to your whatever your life goal is. Whether it's an associate, whether it's transferred to a 4-year, whether you're getting out of high school, going to a 4-year, or coming to get a skill or a trade, and then getting into the workforce. We're not pushing that enough. Before, it was, oh, you just have to get these degrees. School is not for everybody, like I said. And I've heard my colleagues push students to do that, and they don't stop to meet the student where they are or their circumstances. The institution that I work at now is a HSI, which is a Hispanic Serving Institution. Of course, it's in an income area, African American, Latinx. And, you know, working with some of the advisors, they're not stopping to listen or look at the community that they're in. There's a bunch of construction, welding, all of those things. They don't understand that's in our area. Factory, barber colleges, hair schools. That's what we have. Some students don't want to do the traditional, get your associates in this, go to get this bachelor's degree in this. You're not going to, and people telling them you're not going to make as much money if you don't do this path. And I just want them to know that stop trying to push what our beliefs used to be, because that's what we were instilled to say, oh, we have to go to college to get this degree in order to do not realizing the times have changed. The times have changed in regards to this education system, and we're not giving students the essential skills in order to even get out there to do what they need to do to make their life work for them. So it's like they're not skilled and equipped with resume writing, presentation skills, how to talk to the next person in order to even get that job and keep that job. What I have seen is a lot of students who are socially awkward, anxiety high, not able to communicate. Their expectation is they feel like they're owed the job, not wanting to work for it. I push, let's work where you are. And especially with my outside of my job, with the STEAM students, it's a lot of differences from before. And it's making sure that they have what's needed so that they can be successful on whatever path it is. And I think my mindset has changed in these 20 years of higher ed, as well as there's a lot of people in these school system, the education system, higher ed, it's dwindling down because people don't want to go to college. People don't want to go to school. They are out here trying to make money and live because that's where they are. And I push making sure that they know whatever you're trying to do, it's here. Whatever resource, whatever trade, whatever school you're trying to do, here it is. I take students who are not even, we recently just did a college tour. I do college tours. That's my other side thing. That is something huge that I do because a lot of students don't get an opportunity to see the schools that are out there, historically Black colleges, traditional institutions, even trade schools, even those small schools that are hidden gems that people don't know about. And I try to make sure that students see that no matter what, whether that's their path or not, because at the end of the day, we can't push our views of what we think they should be doing. We should be encouraging them so they figure out what their path is so they do make the right decision and choice. Because in this game of education, you make the wrong move, especially with the millennials and the students that we're working with now. If you say something that's not in their right path, they're going to say it's your fault I was not successful. And at this point, I'm all about, let's see what we can do to make you be successful. What is it, your path that you're on, and what job is it that you're trying to get? So that I would say it's more encouraging. It's a lot more high touch nowadays. So in the end, the things in the past to now is totally different. Totally different. It's still changing. Even now, my own daughter is about to go off to college, and it's like I'm still trying to figure that out. So it's a different generation and different age. It's just different.
It's a different world, to borrow a phrase from a TV show that we all used to watch. But I'm glad that you went down that road, because I want to circle back to Sora Elaine and get you a question that I think you will definitely be able to answer here. Because one of the things that we hear, that I heard from Sora Willis talk about, is the importance of, I guess, finding that mentor, right? So because we know that you have a passion for mentoring, whether it's in your profession or within the community, and also for providing assistance for others to get their start in whatever endeavor that they want to go into. So one, what sparked that passion? And two, how important is it for people to actually seek mentorship and accept that mentorship in whatever field that they want to go into?
So first and foremost, this passion? If anybody that knows me knows that I'm not a PK like Sora Springer, okay? However, I am deeply rooted in my faith. And so if I had to say where that love began, it's right at Westminster Bethany Presbyterian Church in Brooklyn, New York. Me going to church and working in the church and working with the youth program and the Sunday school and the kids, that's where the love began. Now, what cultured that? Honestly, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Okay. And I'll say even more specifically, Sigma Kappa Zeta Chapter. And the reason being is Sigma Kappa Zeta Chapter, if nobody else knows, love the kids. Okay. We have Arcanettes, Pearlettes, Amikettes, and for those who don't know, that's babies all the way up to high school. And quite frankly, it started many years ago. I don't even know, but maybe about 14 years ago, when our chapter needed a ARCANET chairperson, or a chairperson for the teenage young ladies. I had never done it before. And it was a challenge. It definitely was a challenge. Those young ladies wore me all the way out back then. But it was a challenge that I was willing to dedicate my time to. And it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew to show me the importance of giving back to our youth. And from there, it sparked this whole, this true love that I'm still committed to today. So when we start talking about mentorship, that program, working with our teenage program, has shown me the importance of mentorship. As I said before, when I became a judge, you have to be able to see certain things in order to be able to want to even be a part of that, right? And these young ladies, working with them and teaching them the importance of all the women in this chapter are college graduate women, educated women, doing wonderful things, different professions. We have teachers to doctors to politicians to just secretaries, the entire gamut of things, right? These people should be people that you should be looking towards and seeking and trying to figure out how you can get an internship. What type of guidance? I've had ARCANETs. When I became a judge, I had an ARCANET call me. I will never forget. She called me and said, "Miss Keisha, are you working in the courts yet? Because I think I want to be a judge." I don't know any young women who say that they want, including myself, who want to be a judge. They say they want to be a lawyer. People will say, young women will say, "I want to be a lawyer." What do you want to be? I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. But nowadays, to start hearing them say, "You know what? I'm thinking I want to be a judge." That's because you saw something that changed your mind, right? It changed, it made an impact in your life. It showed you that you too can be that. So mentorship is really important. Even as an adult, when it comes to your profession, mentorship is key. I'm sure that all of our successful sorors on here have had a mentor in some way, shape, or form in their profession, because why reinvent this wheel when we have people who have gone through lived experiences that can share with us a pathway to success, or a person. We all know that networking is key. So mentorship, you need to find, it is very important to find a mentor. And people sometimes think that mentorship is, oh, we got to find this one person. No, you could have 50 different mentors for 50 different things, that you like to do, because this mentor might be over here to provide you with business advice. And this person over here might be able to provide you with marital advice, and this person, so there's many different types of mentors that you might need throughout the course of your life. And all of those things are impactful for your growth. So I encourage people all the time, if you would, I'm available to, I don't know how I don't have enough hours in the day, like Amber's laughing, okay? I don't have enough hours in the day, but I'm always willing to help people do whatever it is that needs to be done. My love for entrepreneurs is real. I feel like that is a key to our society. So I took on the task when I was a lawyer to help minority-owned businesses and small businesses to find ways and avenues to start their businesses without spending millions of dollars on lawyers and whatever the case might be, actually helping them to start and to help them to guide to find mentorships. They have organizations, and I feel so right now that we're talking about mentorship, and I didn't even think about this. Even for business, they have organizations in New York City who are for free. You can get business mentors. Okay, my husband is a part of the program. He's gonna kill me, but he is one of the business mentors. How could you not have that ready? But yes, he is a part of the business mentorship program, which is a free business mentorship program for people. So I encourage folks, please seek out, don't be too prideful. Don't think that it is not necessary. And a lot of times people say, well, how do I get one? Hey, sometimes it's just walking up to somebody, humbling yourself and saying, hi, I need help. I need assistance. People think that you have to be able to go online and look it up. No, if you go to an event and you see somebody who's doing it, walk up to them and say, you know what? I appreciate what you did and what you poured into me today. would you mind if I gave you a phone call later on at another time, so that I could just sit down and have a cup of coffee with you so that you can pour. And the other thing is, mentors don't have to be for 5 years. It might be for 2 hours that somebody has given you, because I've had meetings where I've met with somebody in 2 hours and they've poured so much into my life that it is, amazing. So we just have to, I think about mentorship in a different construct sometimes, and don't give it a box and say, this is what it has to look like. It doesn't have to be one person. It could be several people. It doesn't have to be something where you go online and it's all formal. It could be that church person, that woman that sits next to you down the pew in the church. And it doesn't have to be for 6 years. It could be for, a moment and a space in your life. So that's my thoughts on mentorship.
Excellent.
Can I piggyback off of Sorority? So let me just tell you about Sorority, right? Sorority is great with mentorship until I call her up to work with the babies. And then she drops her head in her hand and she's just like, you mean the 4-year-olds? And I'm like, yeah. She's like,
listen, shots fired.
The 4-year-olds take a lot. The 4-year-olds.
I asked Sorority to teach the babies a step. She said, I had to first go with, how many people know their right hand from their left hand? How many know their and I said, that takes a lot to work with children. And a lot of times, when I take all the time too, mentorship don't start with just our teenagers. They start from even younger. Because when you have entrepreneurs that are 5-year-olds, that are 6-year-olds, who are writing books, who are lip gloss designers, who are doing candles, our Pearlettes this year, and even on a national level with Zeta Phi Beta Youth Auxiliary, we actually honored all our young entrepreneurs from the age of 6 to 17. And a lot of times people forget that. They forget that we have so many of these young people who are making their way and making those strides and are setting those stones from a tender age. And so when you look at, mentorship and just what Sorority had touched on, she's right. Like you definitely got to have a passion to be able to do it. Like to see these kids to do what they have done, to see what our youth have done in regards to honoring these young ladies and being able to speak on what they've learned from them. It's amazing. But Sorority, I will be calling you after this broadcast. You will be working with the Pearlettes. I love you. That's all.
So again, thank you all for those remarks. And before we actually do wrap up, I do want to, didn't forget about you, Sorority. I do have a specific question for you as well, because I know that you have a very extensive experience providing professional development, especially in the higher education and in the K-12 space. So how important is it for people and organizations, therefore, to actually take part in professional learning going forward?
I got to keep apologizing because I'm in the airport and it's noise all around me. But, I love Earl. That's my sayings. And whenever he calls, I'm going to always show up for him. So thank you, Earl, for the invite. But regarding the question, professional development and professional learning is always important because Prophet Muhammad said you're supposed to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. So whenever you work in any capacity, you should always be thinking about ways in which you can continue to grow. Because if you're the smartest person in the room, then you need to find some new company. So professional development teaches you best practices. It offers you different perspectives about the ways in which you can do the work, about the ways in which you can work smarter, not harder, about the ways in which you can be innovative, and about the ways in which it's just okay sometimes to just sit down and think. We think about the people in Silicon Valley. The commodity that they have is time and thinking. The rest of us are out here, trying to hit this 9 to 5, but people in Silicon Valley, they really prioritize time because that time allows them and gives them the opportunity to be able to think about the next innovation. Professional development teaches you and shows you that these are the ways in which you can grow when you sit in a room and you actually take and you learn from somebody else that's willing to pour into you. So it's important. It's essential, actually.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Can I chime in really quick? What she just said, because I wholeheartedly agree. And it has to be intentional because sometimes we're doing these professional developments and it's redundant of things that we continuously learn, but it's always those new things or new ways we need to think about things because we've been taught a certain way. And once we have it, that's all we have. But not looking at the changing times and era, we got to switch it up because everything doesn't move the same way like it always has. And we have to be intentional about how we do our professional development with ourselves, with each other, and those behind us, before us, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to say that.
And I just want to follow on one more thing. When I think about professional development, I don't think about it in the traditional sense of you going to a training and you taking a half a day off from work or a full day from work. I don't think about it in that context. I do think about it in the context of the ways in which Carter G. Woodson educated teachers and the ways in which he mentored teachers. So the whole process about professional development is about reading, studying, and application. You can go to any professional development in this world, but if you don't take the nuggets and apply them to your everyday life, then you just sat through 8 hours of nothing. So application is what's important. And I think that professional development, we see it in every part of our life. You know, some of us think about how we can break bad habits. You know, if you keep on applying the same method to your life, then you're going to keep on using the same habit, or you're going to keep on having the same habit. But if you pick up something else and say, I'm gonna be intentional today, I'm gonna wake up at 4:30 instead of waking up at 7 o'clock. And I'm gonna do some reading first thing in the morning, or I'm gonna work out the first thing in the morning. Changing your habits is gonna change your behavior. So it's all about how you shift your beliefs, your behavior, and like just what you put out inside of the world, because you have now said, I'm willing to do it and I'm gonna commit to doing it. So professional development is also about the commitment that you make, not about what somebody else is bringing to teach you.
Sora Ali, and
Thank you.
I agree with you on that because, now we have more and more young people, more and more people, even in our age group, that are entrepreneurs. They are out here making moves that are unbelievable. Like to watch the way we have so many people that are definitely leaving their footprint on this earth is amazing. It's definitely amazing. So, definitely I'm there with you on that.
Well, again,
even with, can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry. And even with entrepreneurship is probably the greatest and the largest classroom about professional development there is. You can't start a business without continually learning, because you're going to make so many mistakes on the way. Like, you're going to get so many things wrong. I can't tell y'all how many labels I went through, how much money I've spent on labels because nuances were wrong. Not asking the right question, not doing this particular part right. And then once you get it right, then you know how to move forward. But you're going to make more mistakes than you're going to be perfect. So the objective is to get to a place where you can be better. But when you run a business, you have to depend on other people. You have to learn from other people. You have to think about it. So I love that our young people and so many women on Instagram are actual entrepreneurs. And I learned so many things from women like Kezia MW. I learned so many things from the Six Figure Chick. I learned so many things from all of these women on Instagram who are actually running bona fide businesses, who said, I'm not going to let no be the end point for me. No just simply means not right now. So let me go back to the drawing board and perfect what I'm doing.
Okay. So it's amazing that we've been on for a little over an hour and a half now. So we've gone over the time that we had allotted for this conversation, which isn't a problem because you all have given some really great nuggets of inspiration to everybody listening. But as we get ready to close here, and I'm going to bring Brother Mario King back on in a moment to close us out. But before we do, I want to kind of go around the room here, and I want each of you, as quickly as you can, because I'm sure that during the All-Star break, All-Star game, you probably saw the commercial with LeBron James talking to his younger self just before, like on the eve of the draft and everything. So what advice would you give your younger self just before graduation from high school?
Can I go first?
Yes.
It's simple enough. I would say, don't let fear of failure prevent you from moving forward. Mistakes are okay. Mistakes are how we learn, and that's part of the growing process. I am, very accomplished CPA, but I have no shame in saying I failed every part of my CPA exam multiple times. I had to figure out what did not work for me so I could then overachieve and eventually make it. So mistakes are okay. Tell young people, tell my younger self, it's okay to make mistakes. It's how we learn. It's how we grow.
I would say to my younger self, you can do it. Don't doubt yourself. Stop second guessing and make it happen.
There you
I
go.
would say to my younger self, it's okay for you to stop and pause for a minute. Don't think that everything you have to do is in the rat race, that you're only racing against yourself, and that you are that person that will make it once you put it in the universe, that you will be successful.
Sorority.
I will say to myself, your experiences will dictate your growth. Your experiences will dictate your growth. So as a young person, my suggestion is experience as much as you can. Know what you like, know what you don't. Try things that you've never tried before. Go places that you've never gone before, because those experiences, meet people that you've never met. Those experiences will dictate your growth. And I can't say how much that has been impactful. My experiences have been impactful for me. So that's one thing I will say.
Thank you. And Sorority.
And I will say thank you again for this opportunity to be on this platform. And it was a joy sharing the stage with all of you all, my beautiful sorors. What I would say to my younger self is just to maintain a continual reverence for the ancestors and for the people who came before us. And also I would just use 3 words and just repeatedly say these to my younger self: read, study, and apply. My Instagram handle is Do It Girl, DOITGURL. And so I say do it, girl. Well, I used to say it to my nieces because, they were so bomb, and I'd be like, do it, girl. But I use do it, girl as a way to motivate myself, so you have to also push yourself. As much as you pour into other people, you have to pour into yourself. So.
Well, ladies, once again, it was tremendous. It was amazing to have you all join us this evening. For those of you who are watching on Facebook or on YouTube, I'm sure that you were able to learn a lot, and you got a lot from the words of inspiration from these wonderful and lovely ladies. And thank you for actually listening and tuning in to this broadcast. And once again, ladies, thank you for taking part in this installment of our webcast series. Once again, to everyone out there, my name is Kevin Boston Hill, and it was a pleasure to be serving as your moderator for this evening. I will turn things back over to Brother Mario King for some final words.
Thank you, Kevin.
You were a great moderator too, just to let you know. Excellent.
You were excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Boston Hill. This has been a great pleasure. And I do want to thank you, ladies of Zeta Phi Beta, on a excellent series tonight. A lot of powerful information that was shared. And, we definitely want our viewers to thank you for that. Also, thank you for our viewers as far as joining this evening. And be sure to stay tuned to this space hosted by Brooklyn Long Island Alumni Chapter as we continue to bring you quality, informative programs full of information for our communities. We hope to see you all next Thursday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we wrap up the month and celebrate the centennial year with a stellar panel from the ladies of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. Until then, stay safe and take care of yourselves and each